Well, hello and welcome to an online E3. I want to take the opportunity today to spend a little bit of time with Leigh Ann and talk about women's ministry. Don't want to embarrass her, but she is one of our shining stars for ministry. And so basically the story of this quick video is see what she's doing, do what she done, okay? Because God is doing some significant work in there. It doesn't happen by accident. It's because of a lot of the work that you have put in, a lot of the prayer for you and for your team, I know. Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted you to be able to share with the congregation and with the E3 leaders maybe some ideas that will help them out a little bit as well. Yeah. So, Leigh Ann, tell us a little bit about your vision and planning for women's ministry. What's that like? How does that come together for you guys?
Yeah, so I guess the place where I should start is, as you probably know, Dennis, I'm a planner.
Yep.
I like having a plan, and the Lord has been very gracious to bless me in occupations, in jobs where I plan. I started out as a project planner, now I'm in strategic planning, and so that's been the career that He's given me, and that's been really awesome because I'm able to use that in ministry. Uh-huh. And so I come with a lot of really good ideas. But what I have to constantly remind myself is it's not about my ideas, it's about the master planner. It's about what God's ideas are, right? And so I do a lot of praying. My biggest prayers are always asking for wisdom and for inspiration, because I really do believe that God is going to answer that prayer. And He has been so very faithful in doing that. I have in my office like these big whiteboards where I write up these random ideas that come up just in the middle of the day, during the regular course of other work, when I'm, working on some sort of strategy for a federal government agency, something will pop into my head and I'll immediately write it down. So I always approach it with prayer. And then I think the other thing that's really important, and what we've done in women's ministry, is we have thought about what is the church's direction. So we started with that, I love the mission statement of real people, real faith, real community, right? So we started with that and we said, so what does that mean for women? So when we start out with that strategic planning, we think about what is the end in mind, right? The end in mind, and how is that specific for women? Why are we here? Not just why are we here as a church, why are we here as Christians, but why are we here for women? What is it that women need?
But you're connecting that to the overall ministry of the church, which really makes sense. It helps it be more effective and kind of leverage the overall direction.
Right. So hopefully what happens, because we're doing that alignment, is we see things happen, whether it's in a sermon or maybe something that people are hearing in a Bible study or through some other event. It's just reinforcing. So it doesn't require a ton of coordination on our parts, although it is important for us to have that background. And I think that's why it's important for us to have the E3 meetings. It's important for us to hear from the pastors and church leadership about what is going on in the church, so that we can figure out where we can marry up with that.
So when you do that, you have an idea, you know where the overall piece is going, and you say this is where we're going to match up and align with that. What does that process look like? How do you do that part? Do you do it all by yourself?
No. Well, no. So,
no.
So I do go in with an idea of the direction that we're going in, and I'll share what the Lord has laid on my heart because of that prayer, right? Okay. Of saying, God, inspire me, help me to know what it is. You know all of the women in our church way better than I do. So what is it that they need? What is it that they want to hear or need to hear, right? And so when our team sat down a couple of years ago, we identified this outcome, right? Remember I said, what is the end in mind? We said, we want women to experience God for themselves.
Okay.
We want women to be known and loved. You'll see that in a lot of the things that we promote, is that that's our focus. We want women to be have confidence in the steadfastness of the Lord, okay? So then as we plan our activities, we think about, how does that relate back to that outcome? It sort of serves as like the foundation of what we're doing, so that we may come up with a really great idea, but if we test it against that outcome and we say, does this really help us achieve that? Maybe a great idea, but if it doesn't help us to that end, one of two things need to change. Either we don't have the right outcome, or we need to look for a different idea.
So if it doesn't help them experience God for themselves, then great as it might be, that one gets shelved.
Yes, exactly. And that happens in all different kinds of ways, right? So once we identify kind of that wildly important goal that we want women to have this experience, we then said, what does that look like? And we identified, first of all, for women to feel loved, valued, accepted, We identified the importance, and this was actually a new one for us. This last year when we redid our planning, we said we thought it was really important for women to do this in community. And so we emphasized that as being one of those things.
Which is one of the big pieces for the church.
Yes, exactly. And then the last one was, and this was really important to me, was that we would support our leaders, and not just women who lead a women's Bible study. You know, from all of the people that you engage with, we have women leading everywhere at Riva Trace. And so we felt it was our duty, it was important for us to come alongside those women and encourage them and pray for them and help them fulfill whatever calling it is that God has on their life. Because God has called them to a purpose, to serving a particular group of people, and we want to support them in that.
That's awesome. So they may not even be fully engaged in everything that the women's ministry does, but if they're a deacon, you want them to feel connected and know that they've got a support system for women that are praying for them, caring for them, and going to walk with them.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Exactly.
That's very good.
Yeah.
That's very good.
So what we did, there was a couple of things that I thought were really critical for us going through this process. Number one, we have a committed team. We have a team of 5 women who meet on a regular basis. We meet every month. Usually it's the first Monday of the month, unless there's like, I don't know, a crazy snowstorm, and then we don't meet. We meet at Chick-fil-A in Bowie, so if you happen to walk in there, that's where we're at. And we're unified, and what helps unify us is going back to what that outcome is and saying we're all in agreement, this is the direction we're heading in. It makes decision making so much easier because everybody's on the same page.
So share with us some success that you've seen.
So I would say some of the success that we've seen, so one of the big things was, and this was a total God inspiration moment. So I was sitting at my desk last May, and we were talking about what is the summer going to look like. And I kept coming back to, I felt like God was saying, this is supposed to be the summer for women. And I was like, that sounds so weird. And I was like, it kept coming up and coming up during the normal workday, right? So I wrote it up on the board in my office, and I was like, okay, well, what does that even look like? And I felt like what God said was, you need to provide so many opportunities for women to connect over the summer, that when they come back to the fall, there is a place for them to land in a small group, in a community group, in something, right? So that's where the idea for the Taste and See, where we would have women gather and have a meal together and learn how to cook together. We did fun activities, like I went kayaking for the first time, which is totally outside my comfort zone. We did all of these different things so that women would find a place to get connected, right? And so Taste and See in particular was such a huge thing, because what it allowed us to do is cross-generational, coming alongside with one another, learning how to peel vegetables together, talking with one another about what was going on in our lives. And we carried that through into November when we had pie making, right? So we did all of this summer for women, and as we were going through it, I felt like the Lord was saying, you need to continue this in some way, and you need to do it for younger women. I was like, I got so much on my plate, but Lord, if that's what you're telling me to do, then that's what we're going to do. And so I met with Sydney Hudson, which is one of our high school students. I met Kristen Gregory, who is one of our young women. And I said, let's talk about this. And we came up with this idea of supper club that meets once a month. And we started looking around the church, coming in a little bit early, which is, again, outside of my comfort zone, but coming in a little bit early and having those one-on-one conversations with women and inviting them to come and join us for these, what started out meeting once a month with these groups, right? And so in church in August, I turned around and I felt like God had put a spotlight on one woman in particular. And she's tall, and I'm not going to say her name because I don't want to embarrass her. But there was like a spotlight around her. And I went up to her after church and I introduced myself and I said, hey, we have our first group is meeting, and I don't know if this is something you're interested in, but you should come and join us. And she came, and she got connected in with a group of women. And then we got to that Taste and See in November, and she was excited about coming, and this was the first time she was really coming to one of our ministry events. And she was outside in front of our house, and she had just a terrible day at work, and we went out, Kristen and I went out, and we prayed with her. And I said, Jesus is He's got a plan for all of this. I know it's hard to see right now, but he's got a plan for all of it. And I had felt the Lord prodding all along, leading up to this day, that she did not have that relationship with Jesus. And so I asked her, where are you at with your walk with the Lord? Do you have a relationship with Him? And I said, and she was just like, well, how do I even do that? And I went, that is the best question that anybody in ministry could be asked. And so we prayed with her, and she was baptized in church about 2 weeks later. And she has continued to meet with our group. Now, it's been hard because of holidays and COVID and stuff like that. But it's been so cool to see how the Lord has just kind of like, He knew back in May, I have zero doubt, He knew back in May that this young woman's heart was what was going to be changed by the Lord.
You know, part of the key to that I hear is that rather than make an announcement, come to the taste and see.
Yeah.
You're in the sanctuary, you're looking for people, you're being proactive, you're going to them and you're inviting them in. And I think that's one of the keys. I mean, I watch it every week. But you know, there was another blessing that I saw a couple of weeks ago. And again, I don't want to embarrass you. But one of the things that I saw was you went forward to pray. And in the past, typically what happens, a woman will go forward to pray and you will go and stand with them and pray with them. And this time you went forward to pray and 2 of the ladies that you were mentoring came and prayed with you.
Yes.
And to me, I thought that is a reproduced faith.
Yes.
Right there.
I cannot tell you. I knew when I went up to pray, I had a pretty good sense that someone was going to come up and pray with me, because we've been pretty good about that here at our church, right? And my mom goes to church here, and so I thought there was half a chance, because she knows what's going on in our lives. I thought there was half a chance that it was her hand that was on my shoulder, or it was some other woman that I knew. And when I got up and turned around and saw who it was, tears, just tears, because I thought back to the times that I've talked to them before and after service. And what a blessing it was for me as a ministry leader that they came up and immediately prayed with me.
One of the things that I just said 10 minutes ago in the sermon was ministry transforms people, but it also transforms us. And that was an amazing thing for me to see.
Yes.
Well, let's close it out this way.
Okay.
What thing would you share with the other ministry leaders that would help them? What would you say is something that you've learned, something that's been effective, something that's working successful for you?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that come to mind. First of all, going back to what I said before, I love to plan, and that's a problem.
Planning is
I have to think about people are more important than programs. That was a mind shift for me, because I could plan all day long to create a program, create a whole series of programs. But if I don't have that relationship with people, it's going to be really hard for them to want to come to the program, right? So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say that's really important is that I have found, and I'm learning, that women's ministry isn't only about women. Women's ministry is about coming alongside men who recognize the value and the importance of women and are lifting women up, right? So we've had, like, Band of Brothers came and did hot chocolate for us when we got back from Christmas caroling. And I think I've pretty much convinced them to come and help us serve a meal at an upcoming women's conference. But nevertheless, just those opportunities for us to connect with one another and serve one another, and hopefully, you know, our women's ministry, Riva Women, will do the same thing to them, right? So really recognizing that serving women is not just a women's ministry function. 50% of the people, at least, that come to this church are women. That means all of us need to be engaged in that process.
Well, thank you for taking the time and sharing with us, and also thank you for what you do for ministry. You know, God is very clearly gifted you to do that, and you bless our women and our church, and I may bless the Lord as well. And you bless me. I mean, I tell you, there was nothing that made me happier than watching what happened when you went forward to pray, and I saw those other ladies come to pray with you, and I thought, that is ministry that is being invested generationally and will pay benefits for the future. And that's the result of part of what we're doing and part of what God is doing. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. My honor.